Mic check. Hey, morning, people.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right. Keithan, I see you have a question for me at the top of the morning.
Yes, sir. Morning.
Mm.
Um, I was asking if my group could present first, considering I'm actually on the way to Kingston from Westmoreland right now. And, I just want to get the presentation out of the way as soon as possible.
Yeah. What group? What topic you doing again? Remind me.
Design options.
Design options. Design options.
Yeah.
All right. Sure. No problem. No problem.
All right, let me just confirm that my group mates in my car.
But it's for the evening class, right? It's not for the morning class.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, man.
Ah,
So that's
that's it was for the morning class.
no, man. It's
Uh,
for the evening class.
all right, we can do it then in the evening.
All right. Cool.
All right, no problem.
All right, guys. Welcome. I was just taking a stock at where we are in our overall delivery, right? So um all right, so we have at least a little bit over half the class that definitely are at target 3, meaning that they have their walls and their stairs, which is good. Now we have very few people that are at target 4, right? Which target 4 involves doing the landscape, right? Now, target 4 deadline has already passed. Second. So now we're coming up on the final checkpoint. So I'm also going to do a tally so that you guys can know where you are with those of you that have been keeping up with submitting the targets.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
I'm up to date, but I never got a chance to submit the targets.
Meaning submit
Sir,
them on time, or what do you mean?
and
Or
submit them on time for the 2%.
oh, well, no problem. The deal is that if you submit them by the due date, you get a 2%. That's the deal. It's not so think of it as kind of bonus. I am the big date, of course, is when the assignment should be handed in. That's when we mark, and that is 30%, right? But the target dates, the deal with the target dates is that you have to submit on that day in order to get those bonus points. So let's take a look here on our schedule. You guys are seeing my screen, right? Yes. Yes. Okay. Thumbs up. Good. Right. So how do you always do this thing? Yeah. Scroll to the right. All right. So today is the 16th. So so the last thing we did was curved terrain and steps. Today we're going to move into, well, we're not going to do the generating views. We're probably going to do that next class. Today we're going to do adding details to the model, actually, right? And pretty much this is where the BIM model is complete, right? This means that you should have, let me open mine here. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm opening this thing. Advanced computing. No. Okay, here we go. Right. So most of you, for those of you that have completed target 5, right? Let me see who one is a good example. No, it's really only. No, target 4, I mean. Not target 5, target 4. I'm finding a good example here. Mateo, is Mateo here? Oh, so here's a screenshot of about what we should be looking on that you guys should be working from now. Meaning you have the site, you have the massing, and you have that stair, that tricky stair, right? So this is good. Now, here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do for today's class, right? We are going to, let me see. In order for today's class to be possible, at minimum, you would have had to complete target 3, right? So, by my rough calculation, yeah, we still have a few people that hasn't made target 3 yet. So even if you have made target 3, you can follow in today's class. All right, guys. What we're going to be doing is detailing the model. It's not going to be very long. So what I'm going to do is, we're going to go through the tutorial, right? And for those of you who haven't reached target 4, right? I am going to run a little. I want to run a little bonus session so that everyone can catch up. For those of you that haven't reached target 4. Because I want to encourage you guys to keep up with the targets. We only have one more week. Let me see. So today is the 16th. Our next class is going to be on the 23rd, and that's when we're going to start doing annotation and details. Then on the 30th, when is it due? Here. Right. So on the 30th, I think, yeah, on the 30th is when, oh, here we go. The individual project is due on Easter. So it's going to be due April 6th. Then now, on April 13th is going to be the collaborative assignment. So in order for you to proceed to the collaborative assignment, you must have completed the individual project, right? The collaborative assignment is going to be due on the 14th, which is technically after classes end. Classes end on the 17th, Friday. All right, guys. Are you guys following me?
Yes, sir.
Right. So I'm just kind of charting the trajectory that we have for now. Now, for the
Sorry, sir. Could you repeat when you say it's due?
the individual project is going to be due April 6th.
Okay.
All right.
And the group?
And then and that's going to be during the Easter break. When you guys come back after the Easter break, we're going to be put into groups to do the collaborative project. And you guys are pretty much going to do that on your own. There is no classes per se. There's no tutorial on doing the collaborative project. When you guys come to class on the 13th, I'm going to be giving you like a tutorial on how to work collaboratively in Revit. And you're going to be given your second handout. And as I said, guys, the collaborative project is dirt easy to do, right? We spent probably 10 weeks doing the individual project. That is where the bulk of the work is. The collaborative project, you're going to have pretty much 2 weeks to do it. And it's 2 weeks on your own. You are going to be expected to work remotely. That's the idea of the collaborative project. You're going to be working remotely. You don't have to like meet physically in a place to work on it. And that is going to be due on April 14th. And that's 30%. Right? That's an easy 30%. The trick is that you can't access that 30% unless you finish the individual project. All right, guys, because it is dependent on your submission. So I can't stress that enough, that you have to submit your individual project. And this is why I have these checkpoints going week by week, right? So we are at, where are we? We're here. So today we're going to talk about, we're going to add details. Pretty much the model will be finished today. And the lesson that I want us to kind of learn here when we're doing a BIM model is that when you're doing like a proper BIM model and drawings, you have to invest time to complete the model first, and then you do your drawings. That is the trade-off when you work in BIM, right? When you complete the model, that is only half the battle. Because remember, at the end of the day, you are delivering sheets and drawings. That is your product as a designer, right? So if you remember at the beginning of the class, we're forming this, it's almost like we're forming this architectural firm, and you guys are doing the design development phase for a project that I have designed. I have done schematic drawings and I've given you guys the schematic drawings, and you guys are using the schematic drawings to give me design development drawings. So when you finish the model, you haven't accomplished your goal, because the end result of your goal is that you have to give me drawings. But in Revit, the way that Revit works, you have to complete the BIM model before you can give me drawings. Today's class will be finishing the BIM model, and then next week will be now, how do I generate drawings from the BIM model? And that is going to form a major part of your submission. I'm going to be marking the BIM model, yes, but what gives you the bulk of your grade is the drawings. And that's one of the big differences between what you do in this class versus what you did last semester. In 3D modeling, it's about the modeling. I'm marking the model. You're not doing drawings. In this class, it's about the drawings. So you're going to submit the model, yeah, and I'm going to mark the model. But if you submit a model and no drawings, you're not going to get a passing grade. If you submit the model and you didn't do the drawings properly, you're probably going to barely pass. So it's not about the model this time around. It's about getting the drawings from the model. All right, Joel, you following me? All right, I get a thumbs up from Joel. All right, good. All right, guys. So remember this, as we come to we are nearing the end of our journey. All right. Okay. So for today's class, as I said, even if you complete target 3, which is completing all the walls and the internal stairs, you can still follow today, right? Even if you haven't done target 4. And as usual, target this that we do today, if you want to grab that 2% bonus, this will be due, hold on, where is it? 435. Let's see. Where this week, that week. This is so. All right, we're doing target 4. Okay, so target 4 will be due next week Sunday. All right, so you have 1 week to catch up. All right, guys. All right. Okay. Any questions so far, guys? No? Okay. Open this up. All right, here we go. So this is where I'm at so far. If we take a look on, by the way, is anybody using the PureRef app? That app that I'm using in the tutorials? No? Nobody didn't try it out? It's a great little app if you are for displaying reference objects while you create any form of artwork. So in our case, we're creating a BIM model. And let me show you here. I think I had showed you guys a little earlier. See this. Okay, here we go. All right. Yes. So this is the app PureRef. It's a app PURREF. It's a short for Pure Reference. And a lot of artists use this app like when they're modeling something and they want to have the reference images on the screen while they're modeling. It's primarily for that purpose. So when I was doing my drawings, what I did was to place all the reference images on this in this little application here. And it's kind of like a sticky note, but it is more tuned towards having images. So for example, you can pan and zoom, and for example, you can pin it so that it's always on the top. Oops. Go back here. Right. It was already pinned. Come on. Always on top. Right. So you can pin it. So it's always on top. And you have some other little interesting things you can do. For example, you can have where do you find that now? I don't remember the shortcut. I think it's Control T. No, not transparent mouse. But all right, let me go see here. Here. That's it. What are the settings? Right. So, for example, you can change the opacity. You can change it to glass. I use this mode sometimes as well. So you can have your drawing without the background, maybe like that. And maybe you're looking around, you know, you can have this on the screen like that. Other uses is if you are drawing or tracing anything, you can actually overlay this like in Photoshop and then trace behind it and stuff like that. So that's the whole idea of PureRef. So that's what I've been using to have the drawings on screen while we create stuff. Anyway, so what I want to show you guys now is close that. We're going to be looking on adding some details. So for example, if you look on our sketch here, we have this interesting mirror that is going to be on the outside of the building. And we have some doors. If we look, well, you can kind of see it here, the doors that lead to the main exhibition space. Then we have a lot of interior details to add. So for example, we have bathrooms, bathroom fixtures, the doors, the elevators. All of these details is what we are going to add in for this checkpoint. Right. So we're actually at checkpoint 5. Right. Right. So this is what we're adding for checkpoint 5. 4 was last week. 5 is this week. Right. All right. And that will be due on the 22nd. Right. Okay. So let us get going. Okay, here.
All right, so now that we have most of our building outline completed, now we're going to turn our attention to adding some details to the model. Now, one of the most noticeable details in this model is going to be these reflectors, these reflective mirrors that's on the facade of the model. If you notice, it's also the backside of this wing here. And these are not windows, these are actually reflectors. And the idea behind this is that it will mirror the surroundings and possibly almost just kind of disappear with the reflection of its surroundings back on itself. So that was the idea behind this. And what we want to do in our BIM model is find a way to represent this here, right? So those reflections, if we bring up this view here, and I can kind of angle this similar to this view. So based on what we're seeing, those reflections, those mirror-like elements are going to be on the facade, kind of like that, you know, and that is what we're seeing here. So one of the ways that we can get this done is by using the curtain wall tool. Now, the curtain wall tool in Revit is very versatile. You can use it to do a number of things, or its intended use is to have a quick way to create storefront windows, right? However, we are going to repurpose it so that it can act as these reflective mirrors that you see here. Now, the curtain wall tool is located as a part of the wall tool. So if you click the wall tool here, you notice that you're now ready to draw a wall. But notice you can change it from basic wall to curtain wall that you see here. Now, by default, if we choose the storefront wall, and I'll just do this in 3D view to demonstrate, and I draw a storefront wall here, this is what it would look like. So a typical storefront will have a glass panel and some mullions around it. And depending on the rules of the curtain wall, when you adjust these mullions will auto adjust. So right away, you can see that the curtain wall tool kind of gets us halfway there, except in our actual, what we want to achieve doesn't have any frames. So we could use this and maybe modify or delete the frames in theory. Now, instead, what we're going to do is we're going to create a curtain wall from scratch. So if I click back this tool here, so we created a storefront. Now there is a curtain wall that's not already pre-designed as a storefront, and if I show you an example here, I click it. So I'm going to go to wall tool here, and I'm going to change this to just a regular curtain wall, and I'm going to draw this. And what you notice now is that this is also a curtain wall, but it doesn't have all of the mullions of this pre-designed wall, but both of them are curtain walls. There we go. So usually these are the most common type. Now the idea of choosing this curtain wall is that I can now go over to the architecture tab, and I can go to curtain grid, and I can now hover over the edges of this, and I can create my own division. So right away you can see that this approach gets us much closer to the result, because the idea is that we want to have these reflective glass elements here, and we want to also add the division lines to them, but we don't want mullions. So this method is what we will use. All right, so let's delete this here and let us start to draw our curtain walls. Now the curtain walls obeys the same rules of the road, so to speak, as our regular walls. They have a base constraint and a upper constraint as well, right? So if we take a side view here, you can see that we want our curtain wall to fall between pretty much this zone here. So if we take a look on that, we want it to go between this level here, which is facade wall, and this level here, which is cantilever. So that is going to be our vertical restrictions on the curtain wall. So now let's use the pick wall options, and we're going to do this in 3D so that we can kind of see what's happening. So we're going to go to architecture, we're going to choose wall, and we're going to use the curtain wall, and we're not going to use the storefront option, we're going to just use the curtain wall. Now once we click that, yes, we can draw a curtain wall, but instead we're going to use the pick line tool. And then what we're going to do is pick the edges of our wall like so. Now right away when you click it, notice that you can see the curtain wall is created based on this wall edge, but it's on the inside of the curtain of the wall. So we could delete that, and let's do the same thing again. But this time, well, let us set the base constraint. So the base constraint is going to be cantilever, and the upper constraint is going to be facade wall. So now if we use pick line and we pick this surface here, you will see we're getting the right heights. Now notice that the offset is now on the inside, is still on the inside. So what we can do to get a better idea while we're drawing this, let's go to our plan view. So let's go to our upper floor plan. This is what it looks like. So we're going to have glass all along this wall. So we can go to the wall tool, and we choose the curtain wall tool again and go to pick line. Now when we click it here, we get a closer idea of what's happening. Now I'm going to press escape, and I just want to take a while to understand what's happening here. Now when you hover over a curtain wall, notice that you get this blue dash line. Now that would mean you have selected all the pieces of the curtain wall. In this case it's just one piece. Notice that I can also tab into selecting the curtain wall glass itself like this, and when you click it, notice you don't get this dash line that's here. So this is going to be important with curtain walls, because if I show you another example here, so this is a curtain wall, when I hover and click on this dash line, it selects the entire curtain wall, and then I can drag it and do whatever to it. However, when I tab into selecting just the parts, in this case it just has a single panel part. Notice I can't adjust the length or anything. So the first thing you have to do is just keep an idea of how you are manipulating your curtain wall. Alright, so let me delete this example. Now if I click on this curtain wall here, I could go to edit type and check out some of the options that I have, right? Now these are all the options that the curtain wall has when you click on the entire curtain wall itself, right? You can change the grid layout, the horizontal layout, materials, and all of these things. Now let me cancel out of that. Now let's look what happens when we click on the elements, in this case the glass that makes up the curtain wall. So what I'll do is tab into selecting just the glass now, not the entire curtain wall, and go to edit type. Now notice you see a different set of options. So what this means is that you can actually tweak the infills or the parts of the curtain wall individually. So one of the first things I'll probably want to edit is the offset, because notice that this is offsetting this way. So I could offset it by 0. And if I apply that, then notice now the curtain wall panel is now centered. Now also what I can do is I can offset it by 25 millimeters, which is the same as the thickness of the glass. And if I choose apply here, actually let's use negative. There we go. So now notice that the glass is on the other side. Now additionally, while I'm have the glass selected, I can also change the thickness of the glass as well, right? So for example, if I make that 35 millimeters, you'll see the glass is getting thicker. So what's happening here is the diameter of the glass, not the diameter, but the cross section of the glass is 35 millimeters thick. However, notice that that is the full depth of the glass that's here. If I wanted to have this glass touch this element here, I could change the thickness of the glass to 30 and then change the offset to -15, and that way if you see what's happening in the background, you can see that the glass now comes right on the surface of my wall, and that's because I modified the properties of just the glass itself. So if I take a look on that in 3D, and that's going to be over this section, you will see where the glass is now sitting firmly on top of this solid here, right? So I adjusted the thickness of the glass and the offset of it, but remember that the justification is from the center of the glass, so keep that in mind when you're doing offsets. All right, so if I click on this now, notice that it's the base level constraint is upper floor, so I want to make that cantilever, and the upper floor constraint I want to make that facade wall. So notice that it is in alignment with this. All right, that's great. So now what we can actually do is click on this wall, and we can use this tool right here, which basically will just reinitiate the last command. So the last command was to make a curtain wall, so it just reinitiated it. Rather than going to architecture wall and click curtain wall again, I can just click this to reinitiate whatever object I have selected. Clicking this will create more of that object that I have selected. All right, so I can go to pick wall again, and I can pick this one. And the same thing would apply for this. I would need to change the upper floor to the base constraint to cantilever and the upper floor constraint to facade wall. Oops. I still had the pick line initiated. It's deactivated. There we go. So then we have this here. Now notice we have this curve, and this is where things get a little tricky. As it is now, if I try to use the curtain wall again, and I pick line, and I pick this curve, notice I will get a diagonal curtain wall, and this is because curtain walls are unable to curve, right? So we won't be able to use the curtain wall like this, but we can work the system to get what we want, and I'll demonstrate that very quickly to you. So let's use the concept of the curtain wall. If I create a storefront curtain wall, for example, and I'm going to just draw this example here, just like what we did before, it's going to create a storefront. Now a storefront is made up of panels, and it is made up of mullions. So each of these are actually independent parts. So for example, if I hover over an individual mullion, I can tab into it. Notice that I can select an individual part. I can select an individual mullion, and I also can select an individual panel. And this is very powerful because what this allows you to do is you can swap these parts out with other parts. So for example, if I select this mullion here, first thing I need to do is I need to unpin it, because it being pinned, you can't change any options. It's locked, and that's because it is pinned. So I need to click this to unpin it. Then I'm able to swap this out. So I can swap it out for a circular mullion, or I can swap it out for a V mullion. Each one of these parts, I can swap them out. So for example, if I tab into the panel, for example, I'm going to do the same thing. Well, let's change this to a circular so we can know it's different. Right, so if I tab into this panel here, and of course I'm going to unlock it, and remember, this is number one thing that I always forget to do. I forget to unlock it. If you don't unlock it, you won't be able to swap out that part. So I'm going to unlock it by clicking that there. And now I can swap this out with other panels. In this case, I have exterior brick panel. I can click that. Let's see. I get that message here. Okay, so it's probably because that panel is too small. So let me try this one. Let me unlock it and let me swap it out. So notice that it changes to a different type of wall, but you can't really see the wall because of the size. I can do the same thing again. So let me undo that, and I can select this panel here, and I can swap it out for a empty panel. And what that does is it makes the space empty. So if you look here, I've swapped this out for an empty panel. I've also swapped out the mullion for a brown version. So this example is just showing you that you can swap parts out. Now, the reason that we are doing this is that we could select a panel, for example. So let's say I've selected this panel and I've unlocked it. I can swap that panel out for not only curtain wall parts, but also any wall part as well. So for example, I can swap out the panel for a 200mm CMU wall, and there you go. I have now infilled this curtain wall with a CMU wall. So the ability to swap these things out makes the curtain wall tool so valuable and versatile. And that is how we're going to solve the problem here with this curve. So let's get back to the curve now. Now that we kind of understand a little bit about how to swap out components with the curtain wall tool. So now, armed with that knowledge, let's go back and look back at our curve wall here. So remember, when we choose curtain wall here, and I'm going to choose the regular curtain wall, the blank one, and if I try to pick lines so I can get the curtain wall to follow this curve, it doesn't, it goes straight. However, what we can do actually is if we select this panel, and I'm going to tab into it. So I've selected that panel now, which is a system panel glazed, and system panel glazed or curtain wall panels cannot be curve bent. Instead, what they are made to do is to break down into individual straight pieces to get it. However, if I change this out from a system panel to, I'm just going to use CMU wall, then what you notice is that the wall is able to be curved. Now in this case, what we did was put the wall in a panel, and then the panel can now curve. So that is a little trick that we can use to kind of go around having a curved panel. Now, of course, we don't want the panel to be a brick wall. So in essence, what we need to do to kind of trick Revit into doing this is to create a wall type that is glazing, which is going to be different than a curtain wall panel type. So let's create, instead of using a brick wall, we're going to create a glass wall type just like this. Now to do this, we are going to, let's use a regular wall. So I'm going to go to wall tool here, and I'm going to draw, I'm not going to be a curtain wall. I'm going to just pick any random wall, maybe the generic 150 millimeter, doesn't matter which one. So I've drawn a wall here. Now the objective is that we want this wall to be the same material as this. So essentially we're creating a glass wall. Now in order to change materials in Revit, if we click on this wall here, we're going to go to edit type. Then we're actually going to duplicate this type here, and we're going to call this glass wall. All right, now we want this wall to basically look, we want to configure it so this wall pretty much looks like this surface here, right? And in order to do that, first thing we need to change is the thickness. So let's make this a little smaller. So if we go to structure, and let me go back there so you can see where I went. Right, so if we go to structure, that tells Revit what thickness to make the walls. And what we're going to do is we're going to change it to the same thickness of those walls, which is 30 millimeters. Now in addition to that, we're also going to change the material, and if we click that, you will see your materials thing comes up, and we're going to look for glazing, and I guess we can use this one. So we're going to choose OK. So we're going to choose OK on this now, and OK. So notice now this has become a glass wall just like this, but the thing is, this is a wall. So now what we're going to do is we can just click on the CMU wall and we can trade it out for our glass wall. Now we probably also want to click on this wall here, and we want to let the location line be maybe at the exterior, so that way now it can be aligned with our wall, with the glass wall, which is a curtain wall panel. So we're going to delete this sample here. So this is how we get the surface of this to be a glass wall. Now we're going to do the same thing here, and we're going to go to wall, and we're going to draw a curtain wall, and we're going to use pick line again. I'm going to pick these surfaces here. We're not going to get the curve, remember. We're going to pick the surface here. All right, so we need to change the levels for this one. So this one is a little lower than that one. So if I take like a front view or something, we can see that this side of the wall here is, let's turn this on, is going to level 2 ceiling. So all we need to do is select our new glass walls here, and what we're going to do is change the top offset here to level 2 ceiling. There we go. Now of course we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to swap out this system panel glaze, because remember, system panel glaze is unable to curve, and we're going to swap that out for our glass wall. Then we want to fix the center line justification to, let's try exterior. Right, so that way that is what we get. So now we have at least created those mirrors, those reflectors on that glass wall. All right, so now that we have these surfaces covered with glass, let's also do this surface as well, because if we look here, we can see that this is also happening here. So again, we're going to choose curtain wall, we're going to pick line, and we're going to pick this surface here. We need to set the height of that. We're going to click the curve again, and we're going to click this face of the wall. We're going to select this guy here, and we're going to swap him out for a glass wall. And hold on, let's do that again. You have to make sure that you select the actual infill panel, right? And then we're going to change this to glass wall. It's actually creating 2 glass walls. Hold on. So let's make sure that we select that panel, and then we're going to choose the same glass wall there. So now it's curved. A couple of things. So firstly, if we, oh, this is a little bit shorter, that's why we're not seeing it good. Also, we need to set this location line to finish face exterior, and then we're also going to set the height of this. So if we take a look here. Let's spin this around. Right. This actually goes up to this height, which is the roof level. So we're gonna select these mirror-like elevation elements, and we are going to select all three of them. Let's select one at a time, and we're gonna make the top go up to roof, and this curve one we can actually just adjust it manually. All right, good stuff. Now if you notice, this wall here has this kind of coming at an angle. Let's see if there's a better view. Well, that's pretty much a view. So you can see this comes down at an angle. So what we're expecting is that this glass will come down. So what we can do for that is we can click on this here, and we can go to edit profile, and we can select these two guys and just pull it down like that. It's okay. Right, and there we have it. Now if we want to divide these lines nicely into individual panes, then what we can do is we can select this curtain wall type, and we're going to go to edit type. So whenever we edit anything in here, it's going to edit for all the curtain walls that falls under this edit type. And what we want to do is we want to mess around with the vertical grid. So we can say, okay, set all of these curtain wall types to have a vertical grid with a fixed, we can use fixed distance, and we can say make them all 4 feet. So let's just round it off to 12 and choose OK. And what you notice happen now is that all of these are now divided. So let's go back into edit type again, and this time we're not going to mess with the vertical grid, but we're going to mess with the horizontal grid. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to say fixed. Let's go with fixed distance, and we can make this, let's try 8 feet, or let's do 2400. Apply. There we go. You can see it's divided there. Let's go to 4000. No, 2500, 1800. You can see that, see this now, that's the division of everything. So there we go. So now we have created those elements. Well, this one here is not going to do automatically, so we're probably going to have to cut this, or we can actually move it. If we hover to the dash line, we can actually move the dash line. We need to unlock it first, and we can move this dash line here. Same thing for this, unlock and then move this dash line up. So now everything is in alignment. All right, so that is how you get these elements, these reflectors, to be on the outside of the building. All right, so now that we have these curtain walls, now we're going to go ahead and add in these doors that you see here. And if we take a look on our sketch, you can see that along here we have some doors. Actually, let's take a different view here. We can kind of see these doors here. That's along the front, and we can get a better look if we look at, let's see, this section here. So facing the patio, so that is all along here, there are going to be doors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 doors to be exact, and then another smaller door here. We also have doors on the lower floor in various places, so we're going to go ahead and insert most of these doors now. So the first door we want to insert is going to be along here. Now, rather than inserting multiple doors and worry about the width of each door, what we're going to do is we're going to use the curtain wall tool. So we're going to go up to the wall tool again, and this time we're going to go to the upper floor plan. And if we kind of zoom in here, you can see the idea is we want to have doors all along here, right? All along here. So in 3D view, let's go ahead and use the section box here. It's a section box. Let's kind of cut down to see what's happening. Okay, so on the upper floor, the reason we're seeing these lines here is because these floors are coming right up to the surface of the floor. So we need to select these floors here and say attach top base, and we need to attach the top. Make sure you're on top to this floor that is here. Let's see if we can select that floor. There we go. Attach top base, select the floor, and we want to do the same thing for all these walls. There we go. All right.
Right, guys. Now, that is going to be one of the main things that you will notice throughout the model is you are going to have to select all your walls and attach them to the top and bottom of your slabs, right? The neater your BIM model is, the less work you will have when it comes to generating your drawings, right? And we're going to learn this next week. Next week going to be a critical week because this is when all of the investment in creating the BIM model is going to pay off in terms of creating our drawings. So I'm just saying this now. If you guys take shortcuts in creating your BIM model, they're going to come back to haunt you when it's time to generate your drawings. So things like, you know, things like having your wall and floors meet properly is going to matter when it comes to drawings. For rendering, it doesn't matter because whatever the camera doesn't see is perfect. But for drawings, when you cut your sections and those things, you are gonna see how those walls join. All right. Okay, let's continue.
The floor, and we want to do the same thing for all these walls. There we go. All right. So now on the upper floor, this is what we get. So we also need to remove this wall. This wall should, let's take a look on that in 3D here. There is actually no wall there. This is actually an opening, so this is fine. If I take this up, there we go. You can see that this wall here is really just an opening that's here. So we're gonna have the doors all along this wall that's here. So heading back to the upper floor, we will go to curtain wall. This time we're gonna go to storefront, and before we draw, we're gonna create our own storefront. So we're gonna go to edit type, and we're gonna duplicate this curtain wall type, and we're gonna call it entry doors. We're not gonna change any options yet, and then we're gonna draw this curtain wall inside this. Okay, hold on, let's do this again. All right, so with that curtain wall we just created called entry doors, we're gonna just draw that curtain wall in the middle of the wall. And if we look in 3D, this is what we get. Let's disable the section box, but we're gonna uncheck section box here. There we go. So this is what we get for the curtain walls. Now, of course, what we want to do is say, let the curtain wall go up to this level here underneath that entry slab. So if we look on our elevation, you can see that the entry slab height is going to be on what we call level 2 ceiling. So we're going to say, select this curtain wall, and we're going to let the top constraint be level 2 ceiling. There we go. All right. Now, because we're having all doors, we don't need this horizontal element here. Now, we use the curtain wall to create these reflecting panels on the outside, and we took a blank curtain wall and we divided it up. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to choose the curtain wall tool and go into edit type, and we're going to say for our vertical grid we want none. So if we choose OK, let's see, and what we're going to do is if we tab, you can tab into the, yes, let's actually undo that. And what we actually want to do is, if we go back into edit type here, is not to remove the vertical grid but the horizontal grid, right? So the horizontal grid would be equal to these grids here, and the vertical grids would be equal to these here. So in order to remove the horizontal grid, we won't use these, because what happens is that if you choose that you don't want any horizontal grid, you're actually going to get an error, and it's going to say you need to delete them manually. So what we're going to do is tab into the grid here, ensure that you unpin the grid, and then you just hit delete, and that's how you get rid of the grid. Now we need a total of 7 doors, but we have more than 7 spaces here. To fix that, now we're going to go back into the curtain wall type settings, and then we're going to say horizontal grid, put that to a fixed number. Oh no, wait, no, not horizontal grid, vertical grids, put that to a fixed number. We choose OK, and then where it says number of vertical grids, we're going to put that to 7, and now we have 7 spaces. Now what we need to do is change these 7 spaces from glass panels to doors, and to do that, if we would need to replace each of these panels, just as how we had replaced this panel here with a wall. In this case, we want to replace these panels with a door. So if we click on the curtain wall tool here, go into edit type, we can see here where it says curtain wall panel. Right now it's set to glazed. We can actually change that to a door. So if we scroll, you might see that, okay, we can change it to walls, we can change it to empty, but we have no doors as options to change the panel to. So we're going to choose cancel. We're going to load in some doors. So we're going to go to architecture. We're going to go to insert rather, and then we're going to go to load family. Now, once this is up in the default folder, we're going to go into doors. And this is important because there are different types of doors, and we're looking for particularly curtain wall infill doors. And you will know that because you will see it has the curtain wall distinction in front of them. So all of these doors here can be inserted into a curtain wall. But if, for example, you input a regular door, these doors cannot be inputted into a curtain wall. So we're going to choose this curtain wall door right here, and we're going to choose open, and it's going to be loaded into the family, loaded into the project. Now we go back into edit type, and then we can change the panels from glazed to the door that we just loaded. Now we're not finding that curtain wall door, because that door was actually not a curtain wall door. So if this happens to you, where you don't see the curtain wall door when you try to swap these panels, just go back to insert load family and choose another door. So we're going to choose this one that's called door curtain wall double storefront. So this is the actual correct one. Then now we're going to go into curtain walls here and go back to the curtain wall panel that we see here, and there we go. Change it to those doors, and we're going to choose OK. All right, so now we have these doors, and these doors actually have handles, but you're not seeing them because the handles are set to show only when the detail level is set to fine. So there they are. So now we have these curtain wall doors. Now we do have some other doors that we need to place. For example, we have a door here and a door here. So let's go ahead and start placing these other doors. And to do that, we're going to go to the floor plan that's here. And in our floor plan, well, we can actually correct this, because notice that we're seeing this as a wall here. And the reason for that is because of the cut plane. So before we add the doors, let's go ahead and edit that cut plane. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to change our view range, and we're going to set the cut plane here, and we're going to change the view depth. Let's change the view depth to 0. There we go. Okay. Right. So we're actually seeing too low. We're actually seeing below. That's why we're seeing this line here. It was the view depth. All right. So let's go ahead and edit these doors. So we're gonna go to architecture, we're gonna go to doors. Now if we see here, we only have a single flush door, so we need to load more door families. So we do that by hitting the load family here. Now, a quick thing to notice, when I go into, for example, doors or windows or any category here, components, there is always a load family that's here. Now, if I am on doors and then I go to the load family, I am only able to load doors into the project. So for example, if I go to windows and I try to load a window, it's going to say that you cannot load the windows because you selected door and then you're trying to load a window family, which doesn't work. So if you want to load any family into the project, you would go to insert and then go to load family. This allows you to load any family, doors, windows, curtain walls, anything. But once you go into a particular category, so for example, if you go into columns and then you go into load family, you're only going to be able to load columns. All right, so this is one of those little things that you have to notice about loading families into your project. So in our case, we're going to go ahead and go to doors and load the doors, and we're going to go to doors and we're going to let's load some commercial doors. So we're going to go to commercial and let's load the commercial single door in, and this is going to let us choose what size door we want to load in. So let's choose this one, 36 by 96. We can load that in, and this is going to be on this side. All right, so we're keeping in mind what's happening on the actual plan. We have this little space right here, so let's go ahead and get that in. So I'm going to copy this here and extend this. I'm going to use the trim tool and trim this up like that. So we're getting this little space in here. Then we have a little small door that's in this space here. So we're just going to use the ordinary door, maybe one of these. There we go. And we can adjust the door width. So for this door here, we're going to go to edit type and we're going to duplicate, and we're going to call this closet door 2 feet. And then we're going to go into the door width and we're going to change that to 2 feet. It will give us the millimeter equivalent. The reason why this is giving us millimeter is because this template was started in millimeters, and this door was in this template as a metric door, so it's going to always convert it to metric. We're going to choose OK, and yeah, so we have that door in, that's going to be there, and we have a double door that's going to be here. So we're going to go back to doors and we're going to load in the double door. We're going to take 72. Yeah, let's take that one. So these doors are somewhere about right here based on our sketch diagram here. We have another little closet that's going to be right here. So we are going to select this wall and choose this option here to create similar. So we know we'll be creating a similar type of wall. Okay, let's put it in first. Let's trim this up and let's align this. There we go. Maybe it's a little smaller. We can probably make the internal measurements in here. So let's set this to something reasonable. So we're going to tab and move this dimension and tab to here. And we're going to set this to 2 feet. All right. So we know that this is 2 feet. Then we're going to add that closet door 2 feet to here. I'm pressing space bar to swap it around. There we go. Now there's another closet here. And then there's going to be an elevator here in this section here. So let's go ahead and move this down to here. We'll choose this option here, draw another wall here. And then we're going to use a trim tool, TR shortcut, and trim this up. So that's going to be that elevator that we have there. In front of the elevator, we actually have another storage area. So we're going to carry this up and draw another wall like this. Use a trim tool. Trim that up. We're going to put that, let's align that. Then we choose this door, which we're going to put another door like that here. This door actually swings out. All right, now we can actually control these swings. So we can set these swings to like 30 degrees. Yes, this one here doesn't have a swing, but these doors do have a swing that you can control. And so does this one as well. This one has a swing, this one doesn't. All right, now let's continue putting in these doors. Okay, so we have an elevator that's going to go here, and we have another elevator that's going to be down here. So this space here is going to be equal to this space here. So we need to add some walls in that space. So let's go ahead and I'm going to choose one of these walls, and this one is going to go all the way back. There we go. All right, now this elevator opens on this side here, and this elevator here opens on this side. Now, in order to load the elevator, what we need to do is, an elevator is not a door, it's not a window, it falls under component, right? So a component is pretty much any object that you insert into Revit. So while you're under component and you go to load family, you will be able to load the elevator. But if you are under window or door and you go to load family, you will not be able to load the elevator. So that's an important point. So I'm going to go to component, then I'm going to go to load family. Then if you, under the default family folder, you're going to look for vertical circulation. And we have two elevators here. We have electric and we have hydraulic. So we're going to choose electric and choose open. Now, once we see that, we'll have the elevator to place. So we're going to drop the elevator here. Let's rotate it. So this elevator opens on this side here. Now, keep in mind that depending on your detail level, it will depend on how much information the elevator shows. Now, let's get the dimension of this space here. So if I go to DI dimension, we can see this space here. And if we click here and we go to edit type, you can see we have the overall dimensions here. So we have the width and the depth. So ideally, we would want the width to be 2281 and the depth to be 1786. And this is just saying that it's going to cause an error when it's trying to reconfigure the sketch. So you can see it reconfigured it here, but the cab width and depth needs to also be changed. So let's go back into edit type. So the cab width and depth needs to be smaller than the width and the depth. So the depth here is 1786. So we're gonna make the cab width be, let's try 1600, and no, this is the depth. So we're gonna let the depth be 1600. And then the width is 2281 here. We're gonna make the cab width be maybe 2100. All right, okay, that's a little smaller. I think they need to be a little smaller as well. Let's try 2000 and 1500. There we go. So this is much better. So you might notice that you have to set these dimensions up manually. So now we should be able to fit this in. There we go. All right. Now we're going to copy this over to this one here, which is around about the same. We're going to flip this side to open. All right. So now we have the elevators in. We need to insert the elevator doors. And to do that, we're going to go back to component, load family. And then you notice we see the elevator doors here. So we're going to use a let's use a single side door, because these elevators might not be that big. Okay, let's use a double door. Okay, let's open that. All right, then we're going to insert the door. Now these go into walls, so we're going to insert a door here as well. There we go, and we can line this up. All right, so we have our elevator and elevator doors in. So let's delete those dimensions there, and that's looking nice. Okay, now let's go to the lower floor. All right, so, all right, let's look at what we have on the lower floor. So on the lower floor, we have some entry doors that's going to be on this side here. Let's use our floor plan here. So if we look at this section here, which is what we have here, we do have some doors here. So we're gonna put a double door. So we're gonna put our double door here. It's going this way. And then we're gonna put a single door right beside it. Select them and we're gonna move this all the way to the end. Let's use the align tool. All right, then we have some doors in this well, this space is gonna be open because this is an open office. So we're gonna remove these, and then we're gonna put some doors in this curtain wall that's here, but we'll need to customize it. So with the curtain wall selected, we're gonna hit this icon here, and this will take us to a 3D view showing the curtain wall, which is this guy here. Let me expand it out a little bit. Okay. So I can see where I'm at. Okay, so this is it here. So this has a double door that's going to be here. What we can do to even out these spaces is we can select the curtain wall, and this, let's go to edit type here. So let's first change it to, we're going to call this meeting room curtain wall, and we're going to say that the vertical spacing, we're going to set that to fixed number. We're going to have this at 4. No, let's have it at 2. Now let's put it at 3. So it will divide the space into 3, and then we're going to modify it. We're going to tab into this division. Again, this is where you see that dash line, if you can see that there. And we're going to unpin it, and then we're going to delete it. Now, if we notice here, if we try to hit delete even after unpinning it and it's not deleting, the problem is that the grid lines are tied to the makeup of the curtain wall. So let's go back to curtain wall, and what we have to do is we have to say, okay, the grid, what we set to fixed number, we're going to set it to none. So that way it's not tied to the division of the grids isn't tied explicitly to the grid layout. So it's going to say that it's going to warn us that it will not be associated with the grid layout. So that will give us the freedom to now remove any grid lines that we want to remove. And then now we can tab into the curtain wall here. We can get to, there we go. And then we're going to unpin this curtain wall panel and swap this out with a curtain wall double door like that. So that's how we get that meeting room there. So let's go back to our lower floor, and we can see that we have that door there. Now we need to add in this bathroom area here and these bathroom walls. So we can see that this wall is pretty much at the halfway point between this space here. That's this space here. So what we can do is we can use detail line, and we can draw a line from here to here. So the halfway point is going to be about this area here. So we're going to choose this wall, and we're just putting in some walls to set up this space first. Yes, I think that's it. So then we're going to trim it up, and then we can remove these construction lines. Let's trim this up to here. So that's going to be our space. That's going to be here. And then we need to divide these spaces based on what we have. So we can see that we're going to have a male and female bathroom. That's going to be here. And this wall here is going to be on this grid. So we know already that we're going to have a wall that's going to be on this grid that's here. We know the other walls will be somewhere. There will be one somewhere about right here, and there's going to be another one somewhere about right here. Now, even if we don't have the exact locations, we're just putting in the rough locations of the walls first. Right, so we're gonna have another wall here, and this is mainly to carry all the pipes. That's gonna be this area here. All right, so now we need to put in the bathroom stalls and all of the water closets, and then of course the doors. Now, in order to place the toilet stalls, what we're gonna do is we are going to depend on the built-in standards that Revit has, and then that will help us determine the length of these rooms. So we're going to go to component and we're going to go to insert. Then we're going to head over to the main root folder. So I'm still in the US Imperial folder of the family folder. And I'm going to head to specialty equipment. So specialty. And then under that, there should be toilet room specialties. And then I'm going to load the toilet stall. I can load the one with toilet or without toilet. So let's load the one with toilet. Choose OK. And then this actually attaches to a wall, so we can actually put one in there. It's 2. Then we have 2 with urinals, so we can go back again, and then we can choose the one with urinals here. So we can just choose a urinal with screen. That's going to be here and here. All right, so we can actually, let's use our align tool. There we go. And then we can align this wall there. So we're pretty much using the standards. Let's flip this the other way. Let's use the move. There we go. All right. All right. So then let's go ahead and add the other stalls here. So we're going to copy these and we're going to flip these the other way. And then we're going to move these over here, and we want to make sure that these lines are aligned. So we're going to do that to there, that to there, and then that there, and carry this wall back to there. All right, then we're going to have a handicap bathroom on this side. So for this one, we just need to put the water closet. So we're going to go to component. And this time we're going to go to plumbing, and we go to architectural, fixtures, and then water closets, and we will choose this one, commercial. Okay, no, we're not going to overwrite this. Yeah, we'll overwrite it and we'll just put this here. All right, so now we have all the water closets in, and now we need to deal with the sinks. So we're going to head back to component, load family, and we're going to head back to specialty equipment, head back to toilet room accessories, and then we're going to go to countertop with sinks. I'm going to open that. We're going to place that here. So these are all wall hosted, so they have to be attached to a wall, so keep that in mind. So we're going to align this here, then we're going to set the length. What we can do is do the distance here to here, do the distance from here to here. So it's 2723, so we can go here and set the length to 2723. That. All right, so now we have the sinks. We're going to put another one here. So we can actually just duplicate this here, or we can put another one over here, and then we're going to shorten it so that it gets 2 sinks. That's how we'll have this section here. All right, so now we need to add the doors. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to doors, and we're going to actually load in some more doors. So we're going to go to the door. And let's go to commercial, and we're going to load in some commercial doors. Yeah, let's use these, and we're going to use the 36 by 86. All right, so we're going to add in these doors, and we're going to have now a door opening. So we need a door opening here, so we need to actually load that in. A door opening is actually a type of door. So door open, put that there. So now we have a door opening, and yes, 36, so that's fine. So now let's see if we can align most of these in. Okay, we're gonna change the inset to 0, so that's way the doors are within the block wall. Actually, for these doors here, we can actually just turn off masonry frame, and we would be able to, so that the doors will have a trim. Another thing that you might notice is that the door swings aren't showing here. And let's see. Okay, so let's select all the bathroom area here and just click this 3D icon here. so that we can see what's happening. Let's make it a bit wider. I think we've spotted our problem. There seems to be a surface that's here by mistake. That is a ceiling. So look like this was an error here. So I'm going to delete that ceiling. Let's go back to the lower floor. Yep, our doors are fine. So uncheck masonry frame for these doors. All right. So we have pretty much the bathroom spaces in. All right, so now we need to add in the back door that's going to be here. Let's take a look at what's happening at this back door here. So we're going to select this area and say view in 3D. So that's going to be this area here. So there's actually going to be an opening here. So I'm going to insert a wall opening somewhere about here. So that's going to be the opening in this wall that is here. So that opening there is this opening here. And then we're going to add this door behind this area like that. All right, so let's align this. Let's go back to our lower floor here, and we can align this here, and then we're going to add in this wall here, and we're going to add in some more commercial doors. So we're going to add this one here. There's also a double door that's going to be here, and then we're going to have that reception desk in this area here. We have another one of these doors here, so we're going to copy this. Let's flip this on the other side. This is actually on this grid, and then we have another door here going into the storage area here. All right, okay, let's actually, so if we look at this, what do we have here? This is our floor slab. So our floor slab needs to come all the way to this curved wall here. So if we take this area here and look on that in 3D, that's this area here. Let's carry this down. Right, so our floor slab, which is this, needs to come up to here. The other thing is that this represents where we had that void object to cut out this space. The void object should actually go below the ground plane, because you can see it intersecting on the ground plane. So we need to actually edit that. So if we can, so in order to select the void object, we won't be able to see it to select it. So we'll have to go in our project browser, and we can go to, I think we called it topo cut. I think it's this one. So we're going to select it in view, and then we're going to go to edit in place, and there it is right there. So we need this to actually go below the ground like that. So now we can see it's not intersecting with our floor plane. So now what we're going to do is select this floor plane here, and we're going to let it expand to this wall here. So we're going to do the pick walls option. We're going to trim it up. Really, let's go here. Let's pick this surface. There we go. All right, choose OK. All right, so now this is what we have here. And this area here is going to be our temporary exhibition space. That's going to be this space that we have here, which is partially underground. Because you can see the steps. If I rise this up, you can see this is the area where the steps go up to the other floor. So this is going to be partially underground. So you enter here. Oh, we do need to set the door heights here. So right now, these doors, we're going to set everything to 7 feet. So we're going to set the height to 7 feet. And we're going to set the door height for these doors to also be 7 feet. Right. So all of them will change because we changed the door height in the family. All right. Good stuff. All right. So let's continue adding details. Now we're going to add the furniture. So let's go ahead and go to component, and we're going to go to the load family, and now we're going to go to furniture. There we go. And we can go to desks and tables. Let's load in this dining table and chair, and we'll put a few of these here. So there we go. Let's add in some desks. So furniture again, let's go to desks. We can just pick any one of these desks. We can just choose a generic one. Usually in Revit, we are choosing desks that are pretty much placeholders. So even if you don't have these exact desks, that's fine. The exact table and chair is usually left to be determined later in the project. So what I'll do is just add a few desks here. Just add 3 there. Then I will add some chairs, the seating. I'll just add some standard chairs right here, standard office chairs. Then what I'll probably do is I will just select these here and I will create a group and just call it office desks and chairs. And then I will mirror it. I'll create a mirror copy and then I'll duplicate it. And that's fine. That's for representation. We're not going to go into the layout of the office, so we just need to represent it there. And then we're going to add in this conference room table. And let's see, conference room, and here we go. We could add one of these or one of these. Let's add this. Now if you don't have this exact conference table, that's fine. You can just put any table in that space. All right, so we have added most of these furnitures. Oh, we do need a reception desk here, so I'm gonna go back to load family and probably look under desks, tables, and I will choose maybe something that has a L shape, perhaps maybe like this. As I said, we don't need to get too hung up on the furniture. We might pull it back a bit. All right, there we go. All right, so I believe we have in everything here. Oh, we need a space for the loading bay, so we're going to insert another opening there. So let's take a look at the back again. So the loading bay is going to be here, so let's copy this opening over here, and then this one will possibly be a little higher because the trucks are going to back up in this section here, or we'll just leave it open. Let's go to the lower floor, and right, so that's going to be the loading bay. And we will need to put the elevator doors on this side. So let's go to the elevator doors. Let's type elevator doors, center 36 wide. There we go. Let's flip it. Oh, let's flip it this way, actually. Right. Actually, no, that's the way that it's supposed to be, I think. Let's go to the upper floor and let's flip these. All right, there we go. Okay, back on the upper floor, this is going to be our main exhibition space here. We do need some cabinets that's going to be here, some kitchen cabinets. So we're going to extend this wall down. This area here is going to have a countertop. So we're going to go to load family and we're going to go to kitchen.
My screen go blank.
Right,
Yeah.
so we actually need to go into furniture.
So, as I think I had mentioned this earlier, that my library might look a little different from yours because I have multiple versions of Revit and I work on different projects. But all of the families that I'm using in our tutorial is what comes default with Revit. All right, so everybody should have these family objects.
Then go into kitchens. There we go. Let's put in some base cabinets. Let's go back and let's put in some upper cabinets. Let's see if we can find any here. Upper cabinet shelves, upper cabinet doors. Yeah, we can just place some of these. Let's see if we can find some other ones. Let's go to load family. This time, instead of going to kitchen, let's go to cabinets. Let's see here. We have upper floor cabinets here. Upper cabinets. Yeah, so these are pretty much the same. So we'll put a few of these in. Also, a great tip, if you're not finding the furniture that you want, you can bring it up in your browser, File Explorer, and then just search for example, cabinets, and you will get some search results here, and you'll see a whole bunch of different cabinets that you can use in that folder. So you can also use the search feature in Windows to do that if you don't know where the folders are by default. So I'm going to copy a few of these. We're not going to get too hung up on the cabinets as well. Yeah, 3 of them is fine. All right, let's look for some countertops now. Countertops, and let's choose one with a sink. We can stretch it all the way to this wall here. Actually, all right, because the elevator doors are coming out on this side, that's going to be here. So let's move the sink over to the center one here. And these elevator doors needs to be smaller, actually, and they need to be moved maybe to the right. Maybe we should use a single side elevator door for this one. So we can actually go in here, load family, and let's go back to vertical circulation, and let's choose the single side elevator door. Let's delete the double-sided version. Oops, let's flip this. There we go. So now this is the single side elevator door. What's happening is that we're seeing the lower floor here. We can go to underlay actually and turn that off. So we can say underlay none. So now we're only seeing what's on the upper floor. So right, so we are going to be having our elevator door on the right here, which works better with our kitchenette because you need to actually exit the elevator into the kitchen area here. All right, so this is going to be our upper floor. That's going to be here. So let's look on that in 3D. We do have our elevators poking up here, so we need to select them and put them to the lower floor. Yeah, there we go. Then these walls here, right, so we need to fix this up. So we need to cut this wall, and then we need to set these walls here to attach to the top of this floor, like that. And let's also fix the heights of these elevators here because they're still kind of poking out like. So we're gonna offset the top maybe like -6 inches, perhaps -1 foot. There we go. All right, then the roof actually needs to, so we need to trim this to here and then have this come up to this wall here. We need to attach these two guys here to this roof. It's telling us that it misses the target because the roof actually doesn't intersect with those walls, so we need to carry the roof all the way to there. Right, then we need to attach the top to there. Now we need to fix that wall that's on the inside, so let's go to the upper floor and there we go. Let's select all of these doors and turn off the masonry frame so that way we can get the framing on those doors. And actually I want to change these doors here to the commercial doors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change these out to these commercial doors. So then I'm going to create a new version and I'm going to call this 2-foot commercial door. And I'm going to change the width to be 2 feet. So let's use the commercial doors in these areas, and let's set the opening percentage to be 30 degrees. There we go. Let's flip that. There we go. All right, now let's look at this in 3D to see what we've got. So we have our loading bay, an elevator here. We have our back door. We have our doors here. We still need to fix some of these floors. So I'm going to go to the upper floor, select this area and go show in 3D. And yeah, these new walls that I just added in for the bathroom, all of these walls need to be attached to the underside of this slab. There we go. So now we're not seeing them there, so that's good. All right, let's turn off the section box and inspect to make sure that we have everything. We have these as well, so we need to also attach these to the underside of this slab. All right. So in inspecting the building model here, we see some little things that we need to correct. So this needs to go down to this level here. Actually, this wall should probably get a foundation wall actually. If you notice, the foundation wall comes to right here. So let's go to our lower floor here, and let's select this area here. We're gonna isolate it. All right, so now we've isolated this area. Yeah, let's see what we have here. Let's select our section box. Right, so ideally we want this foundation wall. We want this wall to also have a foundation wall. So we're gonna copy this, we're gonna extend it this way, and then we're gonna copy this guy here. We're gonna align here to this wall here, and we're gonna align, there we go. Let's see. Okay, let's align this one here. Actually, right, because this is quite long, so we're going to carry this down. There we go. So now this wall here has a foundation wall below it. Oh, we're going to take this all the way down to this foundation level. So we're going to select these walls and say that the constraint here is going to go to a foundation. Let's not take it to the foundation. Oh, we don't need to, because the foundation wall actually comes up to meet our walls here. We just need to align it. There we go. Right. So this is our foundation walls here. All right, great stuff. Now we also need to add our beams to this section here. So notice that we have some beams that's coming across here to join. That's what's tying this wall together actually, and those beams are coming from these walls that are along here. So let's look at this from our top view. So let's go to floor plans, let's go to roof, and while we're on the roof, we're looking down on the upper floor. But let me switch to, okay, let me go to the upper floor plan. Right. So we would actually have beams that are coming across this area here, here, and from this area here. So I can see we have one that's coming from here. Oh, that's actually along this grid. So that's coming here. So we got one that's coming on top and below, and then one that's coming here and here. All right, so we're gonna actually put those in. So we're gonna use the wall tool to get those in. So we're gonna go to wall, and we're gonna use the 200mm wall. So we know that we have one that's coming across here. So that's gonna be this one here. So we have one up top and one below. And let's look on this in our 3D view. So here we have it here. So for these, what we can do is just perhaps align like that. And what we can say is, there we go. Yes. Okay. So we can say that the base constraint of this be, let's try level 2 ceiling. There we go. And the top constraint is going to be roof, and it's offset 400mm. That's good. Let's copy this again, and then we're going to paste it, and then we're going to align it to, let's align it to the upper floor. It's going to be down here now. The top, so the base constraint is the upper floor, and the top constraint is the same upper floor, but just offset 1000mm. I think that's fine. That can work. So that's going to be these two here. Now, we don't know the sizes of the beams that are required here. So what we're doing an educated guess. And usually what happens is that the structural professional will do the calculations as to the actual beams. We're just putting in some educated guesses. All right, so let's actually cut this thing down to here. All right, so let's copy this. Let's copy this here and then align it. So we have here, so we have one here and here, each side of the opening. Maybe, I'm not sure. Oh, well, actually, there's actually a beam that comes across here that's tying to these beams here. So sure, we can have another one here, and let's see if we can get it to, let's go up a bit. Right, you can see that we do have a beam that's going to be there. So we can actually align the center of that to that beam. And then we have another one here. I think that's actually here. That's like that. All right, so now we have those elements in that is now here. All right. All right, so at this point, we have now, let's change this to black and white, back to white background. So we have now finished our BIM model of our building. So that is going to be our upper floor, and this is going to be our lower floor. So at this point, now that we've finished the BIM model, we need to start working on our plans, elevation, and sections, essentially our drawings. We need to start working on our drawings, because so far we have only completed the model. Now we need to finish, we need to actually start the drawings, and the drawings will now have, for example, the appropriate detailing, annotations, dimensioning. It depends on the types of plans. So we have some of the plans are going to be floor plans and some are going to be elevations. So we need to now decide, we need to now modify our drawings to fit those criteria. Also, we need to start putting our drawings on sheets and organizing our sheet names and our sheet titles. So that's going to be the next step now that we have completed the BIM model.
All right, guys. So that is going to be it for for this step. So what that means is that let me show you here. Okay, where is Revit? Yeah, there we go. So what that means is that by this coming Sunday, you guys should all be at this point where you have your doors in, right? Make sure you use the right amount of doors. Also, you have all the other doors that are in, and you have your facade element there for the reflective glass that's here, and your doors down here as well. All right, guys. Right. So this is what you should be looking like by Sunday, when you, or before, when you submit your updated checkpoint. All right, so what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna give you a tally of where you are, because imagine this project is worth 30%, but if you hit the checkpoints, you could make this project worth 40%. Right, guys? Because remember, every checkpoint is an extra 2%. All right, all you have to do, send me a screenshot on your model when you hit this checkpoint. You have all the tutorials and recordings, so you guys should be fine. I have given you everything on a platter to pass this course with an A. Wouldn't you agree, Shade? All right, Shade here. No, finding the mute button. Okay. Evelyn, wouldn't you agree? Oh, hold on. Did I turn down my audio? You can hear me, Evelyn? Oh yeah, I can hear just fine. Guys, are you here? Cool. All right, so wouldn't you agree, Joel? I've given you everything on a platter to get an A in this module. All right. I have a little area here that I need to tidy up on my drawing, and you might notice these little gaps and areas that you have here. The BIM model, that's the great thing about doing the BIM model. It helps you to find these areas that you need to close up and figure out, okay, how am I going to design my building to close up those areas? So that's the storage area here. All right, guys, so this is where I'm going to stop the tutorial for today and give you guys a chance to um, to do this part. Now, some of you, as I said, most people have not done checkpoint 4 yet. Checkpoint 4 is where you create the terrain, right? Only just a few people have done that. You have.
There's never submit. I can still submit it.
Well,
All right, go
I
on.
tell you what. I will extend the submission. Let me make a note here so I know the cutoff is. I will extend the submission for the bonus points for checkpoint 4 to today. So if you finish it today, then you can go ahead and submit it. This is for those of you who maybe you almost make it, but you never quite make it. Yeah, you can submit today. All right. This is to get that bonus 2%, guys. Remember, 1 cocoa full basket. So even though you might say, "Sure, I got 2%, I'm not have to worry about that," but 2 times 5 is 10. That's 10%, 10 free percent. Just to, I'm not even grading how well you did the terrain or how well you did the stairs or whatever. I'm just saying, show me evidence that you have done this checkpoint. You have reached this point in your model, and I just give away 2% like that. All right, so I'm giving away grades to you guys, right? All right, so I want you guys to use the rest of the class time to finish up this model. And if you didn't submit yesterday, use the time to finish it up and submit. I will see you later for the presentation, right?
Sir, quick question though, sir. You're gonna upload this video after class?
Yeah, man.
All right,
I will upload this video after class. It will probably take about an hour, so because you know it have to encode and whatever.
Yeah, all right, no problem.
So, all right, cool. And as usual, guys, I hope that you learned some stuff with this building. Remember that what you learn here in BIM, the idea is that you remember our original mission is that when you guys go out into the work world, when you go out into your offices, and especially when you have offices that, you know, they say they want to start using BIM, they want to start using Revit, they don't quite know, or maybe the persons that are working there don't quite know. I want you guys to be equipped to know not just how to model. Because the problem that we have is not necessarily the modeling. People can model in Revit, but how do you model in a way to produce drawings? That is the big objective for this module. And everything we've done up until now is to meet that objective. So the next classes that are going to be after this is going to be all about producing drawings. You can only participate if you have your model done, right? And that, as I keep saying, that is the catch with BIM. In order for you to generate drawings, you have to have a BIM model. It's not like AutoCAD where you just draw an elevation out of the blue. Revit expects you to have a model available and to have it modeled properly so that when you cut the section, cut the elevation, you're at least 70% there. And all you do for the rest is add annotations and a few details. So we're going to spend the next couple of weeks learning how to do that. And that is going to put you guys at a major advantage, especially when you go out there in the work world. You know how to do this. Because a lot of people know how to model, but very few people know how to produce construction drawings or design development drawings from a model. So I'm depending on you to finish your BIM models so that you can all participate in the next couple classes. As it relates to our presentations, we're going to try to finish the presentations today because I want to dedicate both class sessions towards learning how to set up your drawings. And I want us to do it in class, and it's not going to be necessarily an assignment like when you like what we do normally when most of you probably are not are not like clicking the button exactly as I am clicking it, but maybe at a later time you come back and watch the video and then you do it. For creating drawings, I'm going to require that everybody do follow exactly what I'm doing while we're in class, right? It's not like you just go off and do it and then you come back. We're going to actually be doing it in class, and then whatever delivery that there will be at the end of class. So as I said, in order for you to participate in that, you would have to have already completed your model. So that is going to be for the next couple weeks when we focus on creating drawings. Okay, guys, I'll see you again later. Use the rest of the class time to catch up. All right, guys. See you in a little bit.